All right. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. I'm Robert Stevenson. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm Marcus Stone. I got that wrong straight away. Welcome to Fan the Flames Live. Now, we've got something slightly different for you today because we are swapping seats, and I'm actually going to be interviewing Robert. So I'm Marcus Stone. Some of you may know me. I've known Rob for a long time. I was actually thinking about this the other day, and you won't remember this, Rob, but I first met you when I walked into that training room in the hotel in Holborn back in 2014, and you were my foundations trainer for foundation. So I've got a clear memory of you from that. You probably won't remember that. And I also came across a little note yesterday of a message that when you left Animas, somebody reached out to me to check how I was because of our connection. And I wrote a message back and I said, I'm reflecting that at various points, Rob has been my trainer, coach, supervisor, mentor, colleague, line manager, boss, emergency support, and most of all, friend. So that's who you've been for me. But for anybody who's maybe a little bit unfamiliar about your role as creative director of Fan the Flames, who do you think you are?
Who do I think? There we could get really deep on that one to start with, can't we? Who do I think? Well, do you know what? I don't know who I am right now. I think there is a real becoming. There's an emergence of me over this over my lifetime, but over the last year, Fan the Flames has kind of come into being, and how I see that is just I guess it's a space to do what it says, fan the flames, to kind of go, that little thing that you have, whether it's an idea that changes the world or just an idea that changes your life or your moment, how is that supported? And this idea that we exist in a world where we don't always get supported. Our flames don't always get fanned. We don't always get nurtured. And how do we create spaces and communities and environments where we can do that? And I think when I moved on from Animus, one of the things that I loved was the community, not just the community of coaches in training, but the community of trainers and the community of the leadership team, and working with these little hubs of people to create the best out of them, with them, for them. And I guess I've gone, how do I continue to do that? And part of continuing to do that was creating Fan the Flames. The part of it's doing the associate work that I do, and part of it's the partnership work that I do. And it's kind of these three strands of how do I support people to be at their best, and partly through coaching, but partly through self-development, partly through kind of training, because I do a lot of leadership training now. So it's that kind of getting you to kind of get there, wherever there is for you.
Yeah. What's a real energy behind that? So the first thing that struck me there is, which we were saying before, it's just been a year. It was, I think, September 2021, and I can't believe that. I know there's quite a lot's happened in my life, but like compared to yours, it's like I've been doing nothing. Let's just sit and watch this next piece of news come in. And it's so there's an emergent journey going on, and you talk about Fan the Flames. It feels like I was just thinking that a flame was lit for you when you left Animas in some way, and in just 12 months, it's like a lot of things have come to you. I always thought that would happen because of who you are as a human being, but it's been really interesting to observe it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because people say, "Oh, well, I thought you would do well, or I thought you'd be okay," and I knew I'd be okay. I just didn't know what okay was. I knew I'd be all right. And lots of things have emerged, and lots of things have come into play that I've been able to take part in and be with. There are things where I've just gone, I can't do that. That's either too big or slightly pulls me in a different direction, or I don't have the space to focus on that and everything else at the same time. And, you know, one of the things being freelance is, you know, it is you're kind of thinking about, okay, so how do I keep the bills paid? How do I keep all of that happening? While at the same time going back, how do I also do the things that I want to do? And balancing those two things. And I remember the week that I kind of moved on, saying to myself, okay, I've got 3 months. And my first month is just to relax, to see friends, to hang out, to do all that kind of social stuff that you kind of fall out of when you're kind of full on working in an organization, or you can fall out of. And then my second month was to think about what I wanted to do. And my third month was then to do it.
Right.
And I said to myself, within all of that, my priority is to have fun. That's it. It's got to be fun.
Did that feel like a long time to you? Because I'd be like, no, I'm taking 6 months to do nothing.
Do you know what? It kind of did. And maybe that's the speed of which I work. But it felt like a good time. It felt like I could also not worry over that time. It felt like financially I didn't need to worry, because I was like, I could take 3 months and then, you know, maybe 4 to 5 or 6 months to actually make something happen from that. So I was like, okay, financially I'm okay for that 6 months.
Yeah.
I can survive that period of time. So I was like, okay. And, you know, I had my things like, but you might need to go and work stacking shelves, or being an Uber driver, or something else, until whatever it is that's going to happen happens. Because I also didn't know what was going to happen. I had an idea of what I wanted, but no idea how that was going to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that transition from something quite solid that you've been involved in for quite a long time, and that regular knowledge around finance and salary coming in, it was like a sudden cut off. Like it wasn't like my transition, where I stayed involved in the business for a period of time and had a level of revenue to support my fun exploration. So that's really interesting for you to say, you know, fun was part of that process. And I wanted to remind myself that fun was part of that process, because I think I'd have found that really hard if that base level revenue had been pulled away from day one.
Well, because what I knew was that if I just went and got a job, if I just went to make myself financially secure in some way, that I was aware that I might tie myself up doing something that I didn't really want to do. So I was aware that I had to bring in a kind of a safety valve that would allow me to check in on myself. And I was like, well, fun, you know, I've got to enjoy it. And, you know, as coaches, as people into personal development, we talk a lot about, you know, finding bliss in what you do, and are you enjoying it, and where's the spark, and all of that. And I was like, I need to make sure I'm doing that. And even if I take a job that is okay, I need to still make sure I've got sparks and I'm having joy in my life, because that's the whole point. Because we talk about it, and I loved what I did, and I found great joy in what I did. And I was like, you still have to have the joy and the fun and the excitement. Otherwise, what is that?
But how did you allow yourself to do that in the middle of all of that like uncertainty, that building? It's like, it's great to talk about seeing the fun and the joy. How did you allow yourself to do that?
Well, I think giving myself 3 months was part of that permission piece. It was like, right, you've got this amount of time to hang out, think about, create. That's your time frame. And so there was the permission, I guess. It was like, there's your time frame to do this. And I guess the reality was, within a month, I'd already secured contracts. I was already coaching. You know, things were beginning to emerge into this world of what things might be. But I think that what really helped with it was just going through my phone book and just messaging everybody and going, "Do you want to meet for coffee?" So I just went. I was just out almost every night, just doing coffee and dinner and drinks with different people, just going, this is where I was. I'm not there anymore. This is where I'm at, and I don't really know what that is. Let's do that. And one of the things that I think also helped me was there were lots of people, some who like Lisa Reynolds, who I knew when I first started coaching before I met Animus, when I was part of Catalyst Business Dynamics, and people that I'd met since then who worked with things like strength profiles and disc profiling and illuminate profiling and all of these sorts of things that just kind of went, now you're in this transition point. Can I support you as you supported me along the way? And here's a thing we can do that can help you think about who you are. And here's the thing we can do to think about what your strengths are. And here's the thing we can do that helps you think about what your next career move might be. Yeah. So I had all of this support going on as well.
I would imagine you had a lot of love coming your way as well.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things, because I was talking about this the other day to somebody where I said, you're moving along in life and things end and you kind of feel like you drop off a cliff. And it could be quite easy to drop off the cliff and just go splat and just go, that's it. Done. But because I had so much support and there were so many people around me and supporting me, what happened was it was much more of a bounce. It was like, I was like going along and it was like boing. And it's like, oh, like, and there was just like this bouncing just kind of happened where people just kind of appearing, going, hey, can we work with you? Can we do something with you? Can we hang out with you? Can we support you? What do you need? And so I just kind of felt like everything's going to be okay. And it was really interesting that kind of everything's going to be okay. Yeah.
Right. So that sort of inner, almost, I was going to say inner, or it's almost like an inner knowing. It's like once you buy into, not even buy into, but you start to feel into the fact that everything is going to be okay.
Yeah.
It feels like that's unlocking something for you to be able to continue and enjoy it.
And I think there's something about going, well, it will be, regardless of what it is, it will be. And also, we can make it so. It's like, because I remember talking to somebody and saying, because I have to admit there were days when I didn't feel great. There were darker days, darker moments. I remember saying to somebody, do you know what? I could quite easily just not get out of bed today and just, but I'm meeting so and so for coffee, so I've got to get up. So there was that part of it as well, that because I had that community of people around me, there were things where people were going, come and do this, come and be part of something. So that kind of encouraged me to move on. Yeah. But there were moments where I thought, do you know what? I would be, and this is an interesting word, but I'm going to use it anyway. I would be justified in just sitting at home moaning, moping, being sad. Nobody could challenge that. And they, of course they can. But there was a bit of me that had, yes, I know that. There was a little bit of me that went, I could have just gone, this is all shit, life's shit. I could have gone, this has happened to me. I could have gone, I'm now powerless. I could have had that journey. But because of people like you and that community around me, and and my partner Karen and my family, that partly that wasn't allowed. But also, if I'm honest, I didn't feel like that. I had days where I was a bit like, oh, this feels a bit shit. But I also had days where I was like, so what now? Okay, what now? If you take all of your learning and all of your understanding about the human spirit and our potential and our drive and our capabilities, it's like, so what now? Okay, here's a golden opportunity to explore what we can do when we are given that opportunity or that situation opens up to us.
There's an element of wonder about that, which I think has always been like, I would never have expected you to be in that other space. I just would not have even crossed my mind. It was like, I can remember thinking, oh my goodness, I wonder what's going to happen
Yeah.
with Rob now.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think one of the things that for me was really important was to feel all of the emotions. Not just to go, not to pretend that I was happy, but to accept when I was feeling down or disappointed or unhappy, but also when I was exhilarated and also when I was excited, because there was a bit of me that went, this is all on me now, right? It's like what I create is what I create. And there was a real excitement and a buzz that came with that kind of made me go, all right, so what is this? And also that kind of, so what do you want to do? Because what do you want to do? Because when
As
you ask
opposed
that,
to what have I got to do or what do I have to do?
yeah, because when you ask that question, what do I want to do? I run a group at the moment, and that was one of the things that I wanted to do was do group coaching and do group programs. And one of the questions that we explore in the group is, but what's your secret desire? What's that secret thing that you want to do? What's that goal? Because when we talk about setting goals, people say, oh, I want to, I want to run a business, or I want to write a book, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. And it's like, great, brilliant. But is there anything in there that's a bit of a secret that you don't speak out, that you don't share to whatever you call it, whether you call it the universe or spirit or soul or what? And okay, what's that?
Yeah.
And how do you do that?
Because what you need then is Lucifer. Have you ever seen Lucifer?
I haven't.
So it's a TV program about the devil walking the earth, and his trick is to be able to go to somebody. So what is it you truly desire? And then this comes over their face, and then they have to voice what it is that they truly desire. And it always surprises them. So that's the interesting thing. They are surprised by what they've voiced, even though they know there's a truth to it.
Yeah. And for me, with my group, we talk a lot about, because we talk about a lot about alignment and how are you in alignment with yourself? Because, we have this is what I should do running up here. This is logical. I'll do that. And then you have, this is my heart's desire, or this is my passion or my emotion. And then you got your gut going. So this is instinctively, this is how this is the rawness of it. But then you have your root that's going in a grounded, down deep, what do you want? And when you start to ask all of those parts, so what is it that we want as a collective? And where do we want to go? Then you start to you have different conversations with yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? It's like that secret element, the unspoken
Absolutely.
element.
Absolutely.
Why do we hold that back, that innermost desire?
Well, because I think it's fear, embarrassment, shame.
Right. Okay.
Disappointment. I think there's a collection of human conditions that sit with it that we go. One, we very rarely. Is that true? It might be true. I'm sure somebody will challenge us if it's not true. But very rarely do we give ourselves the permission to do what we really want to do, because we're in a social constructed environment that says there are things that we should do. And even when we go, but I want to do X, Y, and Z, there are things we go, provide for your family, have a home, stability, career. There are these shoulds that exist out in this world. And a lot of us that are in, I guess, this kind of coaching, self-development space will choose what we want to do. As opposed to the shoulds, we make choices about that. But we can't deny that we are still fed all of that. through social media, through the news, through TV, through newspapers, through our environment, through our friends. We're still, all of this stuff still comes into our system.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that thing that's the real awe for us,
Yeah.
we go, well, I need to protect it. So I cover it up and I hide it away so that it stays protected. But we don't nurture it, we don't feed it, we don't grow it, we just protect it.
Yeah.
And then there are moments where we go, well, there's nothing else, so I can do this. Or there are moments where we feel like we're given the permission to really look at that.
Yeah, but what if those moments never come? As like, so how can you take control of that to make that happen? Because I think the danger is you then get further down in your life, like I do, and then you might look back and regret when it's too late. I mean, imagine that. I always think, the 5 biggest deathbed regrets. That Bronnie Ware article on the. And it's just that always interests me. It's like, oh gosh, because you don't know necessarily. You can live a life where you think, well, I'm not going to have any regrets. The past's the past. I can learn from it. I'm going to move on. And that's a great space to be in. I feel I'm in that space at the moment, but I don't know that. I don't know that if I was on my deathbed with no chance to change anything, it is now too late, whether I might not regret something.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, there are things that I have done that I go, I wish I didn't do them. There were things that I didn't say that I wish I had said. But I go, but
I think it's the things you haven't done that you'll regret.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? So here's the thing. Knowing that gives you the opportunity to do them.
Okay.
So knowing that that life could end, you could be in that moment where you are no longer able to do,
right.
And you might look back and go, I didn't do. Knowing that possibility calls you, in my opinion, you forth to do those things.
Right.
It screams at you to go,
okay,
come on, do it.
Because you and I were talking about jumping out of an airplane the other week.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's one of those things then.
Let's do it. It's like, life, there is so much rich experience that we can have in life. And it's not that we have to go jumping out of airplanes.
With a parachute, I should add.
Yes.
Hopefully.
It could be just going for a walk. It could be just having a chat with that person. It could be writing that book. It could be nurturing your plants. It's like there are so many things that we choose to do or not do, and we are making choices all of the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think what happens is that we look out into the future of the possible repercussions, and we're not sure if we can deal with that, so we choose a different path.
Yeah.
And I go, but we don't know where that path is going to lead.
No.
And it's not to say, throw everything to the wind and just ride into the sunset, although that is also a choice.
It's a possibility.
Is to go, I guess, excuse me, what I'm kind of saying is that deep down there are things that you want to do, there are experiences that you want to have. Honor that. Because when we honor that, I think something else comes into our system.
Yeah.
I think we become alive when we start to do that. I think sparks start to happen.
And there's a couple of things that come up for me around that. One is the thing that you said earlier about knowing that it's going to be okay. So that kind of almost faith in the future that everything's going to be okay. You talk, I've probably said this before, but you talk to older people. It's this thing where, you ask your grandmother what advice they'd give you from their point in life. And one of them is usually everything's going to be okay. It's like, stop worrying about things.
Yeah.
And if you knew that now,
what
would that let you do? And there was something else as well, but I've forgotten it.
And that that's classic coaching question. If you were in the future and you gave yourself a message, what would that message be? If you see yourself in the future, what do you see? And we talk a lot about this idea that there are messages that we can take on from our projected future selves about everything being okay, and how do we do that? There is having faith, whatever that means for you, that things will be okay. But and then there is also having trust that you will be able to be okay. You know, that trust in yourself. Because I think that plays a part in this as well. It's like, do we have the faith and the trust that we will be able to make it okay? Regardless of what happens, that we will find a way to be okay with it as well.
Yeah, and I think that's become easier for me as I've got older and had more life experience. It's like it's hard to deny the evidence, but there've been challenging times in my life. It's like, when have you not actually been okay? You might have looked forward and feared things coming your way and wondered if you were going to be able to cope with it. But in every moment of your life, you've been okay because you're here.
Yeah. And then, you know, I can't deny that some people's hearing this doesn't necessarily feel okay, doesn't necessarily feel good, doesn't necessarily feel fruitful and abundant. You know, I can't deny other people's experience. And I guess what I'm talking about is, well, what's my experience, and so how do I become okay with it? And also, how do I not judge their experience?
Right.
How do I not fall into, oh, well, are they okay? How do I not become the, you know, my classic rescuer self and go, how do I help them all to be okay? How do I go, well, you know, we're all making choices.
Yeah.
And part of my drive is to enable us to be aware that we're making choices. Because I think we're not always aware that there is choice. We kind of go, well, this is the only thing I can do. And it's like, well, is it? Are there other possibilities? How do we squeeze all the juice out of the possibilities to see what are the other things that we can do, and how do we do those?
Yeah. All right. So talking about your experience, then you mentioned your own experience there. I'm really curious about how Fan the Flames came about, and then this, what seems to be a link to me, that you took yourself off to Ireland for a week and went through what looked like an amazing experience of fire walking, trying to shove an arrow through your neck, smashing wine bottles on the floor and walking over them. I mean, that looks amazing. So tell me a bit about that.
Okay, so one of the things that I knew I wanted to do was I wanted to do podcasts. I knew I still wanted to have these kinds of conversations and to talk to people about their work and what they did. And I kind of didn't know how. I was a bit, you know, I want to do it, but I'm not quite sure how to do it. I started to do it, and I was a bit like, but you know, in the olden days, I had this team of people that did it with me, and now it's just me. How do I make that happen? And so the name Fan the Flames actually came from a coaching session that I had with a guy called Andy Cahill. I've been on his podcast, The Wonder Dome. I had a coaching session with him, and we'd been talking about a recent experience where I'd been at a workshop with Peter Hawkins. And at the beginning of the workshop, we all lit a candle from a big candle. And at the end of the workshop, we all put our candle out beside the big candle. And we talked about, you know, what is it that we'd like to get from this experience of working with this small group of people. And at the end, we talked about, so what are we taking away? And we took our candles with us. So I talked a lot about the candle and how I felt that part of what I did was support people to think about what it is they wanted to do. And I don't know if he said it or if I said it or if it came to us, but Fan the Flames came as a concept for the podcast. And I was like, okay, that feels like something that feels like one of those landing moments. So the podcast came along, and it was just a podcast called Fan the Flames. And then I was like, if I don't have a team of people to produce it, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it live like this. Because then I don't have to edit. Then I don't have to do that whole, we're live.
No swearing.
Well,
you didn't tell me that.
I have had a good few swearers on the podcast, which is an interesting thing when you kind of go, oh yeah, I need to just let people know that they're swearing in this one. or interesting language in it. And I was like, we're just going to do it live, because then it's the raw conversation. It's what's happening in the moment. There's no kind of edit to it. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'll do. And then it's like, well, who are you going to interview? So I put a shout out into the world saying, if you want to be on the podcast, if you want to have these conversations, then let me know. And a lady called Lottie Moore responded, and Lottie is a master firewalker. And she came on the show, and we had a chat about her and her work and land healing and shamanism and ancestors and this kind of rich wealth of stuff that she does. And firewalking was part of that. And at the end of the show, when we were not live anymore, I kind of went, yeah, I do this thing called Fan the Flames, which is all about, what's that spark and turning it into a roaring fire. You do walking on fire. Maybe I should come and do this. And she was like, well, yeah. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, well, the next one we've got is in July. And I couldn't do the July one because I was in New Zealand. And then she was like, just before I went to New Zealand, she was like, we're doing another one, smaller group, in August. And I went, I'll do it. And I signed up and I sent her my money. And I remember being in New Zealand and saying that I was going to do it. And people saying, so what is it? And I was going, I don't know. I don't actually know. It just felt right. It felt like the right thing to do. I remember arriving in Ireland going, I don't know what, I know we're going to walk on fire, but I don't know any more, or we're going to walk on hot coals, but I don't know any more than that. And I also hadn't realized it was going to be such a kind of awakening, I guess, for me, or maybe a coming together of ideas and thoughts for me. Because it was a small community of us. And on the first day, we met, we had lunch, we talked a little bit about the space we were in, this lovely place in West Island. And we'd had dinner, and we're out in this kind of big garden, and Lottie's building a fire and talking about fires and how fires work, and we're like, great, beautiful, lovely. And then lights it, we talk about it, it burns down, she rates it and goes, right, who's first? And it was like there was no time to think about it. It was like, you're doing it. And
straight in.
I remember that first one, it was like 4 or 5 steps, if that, and you do it, or I did it, and afterwards you're just like, what's not possible? If you can do this, if you can experience this, then you start to go, well, what are the things that I've not done because they've felt too hot, but actually you could have done them? And it sort of opens this gateway as to, well, then try everything or anything. And I remember when we did glass walking, because the fire has this kind of high energy intensity to it. You're like, you walk like you know where you're going when you do fire walking, and you're just like, you're across those. You're not running, but you move across it. And there are other times where we had a big circle of coals and we did fire dancing. So we're dancing in and out the coals, and we had an Irish fiddle player playing away, and somebody on the flute, and they were singing, and we're dancing, and the energy is high and it's dark and it's just like amazing. So you've got this real kind of energy about it.
Wow.
And then you do glass walking, and it's like a seriously deep meditation. And like each step is you are going into a deeper meditative state. Because as you put your foot on the glass and you hear it popping and cracking, and you're just going, is this okay? Is this okay? And you're like in this communication with your feet as you're doing it. And each step is a full body conversation about, is each step okay? And you get to the end and you're just like, oh. And I remember that the second time I did it, I was walking across the glass, and tears were streaming down my face. There was no sound, And I was like, I don't know what's happening, but something is happening. My body's having a reaction to this experience. And it just felt like, okay, it felt like the right experience to have at the right time to go, right, what else do you want to do? And let's just do that, whatever that might be.
Wow. Sounds amazingly powerful. I had an image when you were talking about walking across glass of being almost in commune, in touch with your body, with the soles of your feet, with sensing into, you say, is this okay? It's like almost the tension of the skin under my foot and just feeling really into that.
And
Sounds amazing.
sometimes you put your foot down and you feel a sharp edge, and you just move slightly, and just go, and then you put your weight on it, and you hear it pop, and it's just amazing. And then we did things like breaking boards, but we also did the breaking arrows on the throat, which
Yeah.
that just blew my mind when we did that.
What was going through your mind as you were like setting up and starting? Because did you walk into it or something, or you put pressure on it on your neck? Is that right?
So you put the tip of the arrow. I'm just having a look. Just excuse me. Here we go. Here's one I made earlier. So you put the tip is just sat in the throat there, and then the other end of it is against a wall, and you take a couple of deep breaths and you hold that third breath, and then you step with intention to the wall.
Oh my goodness.
And in that step with intention, the arrow goes.
But in order for the arrow to go, what do you have to be? How are you setting yourself up? What sort of frame of mind?
Well, for me, it was what is your intention? What is your that step? What is that about for you? What does that mean for you? And for me, there was something about that kind of moving forward. It was a real it was a physical but also a
Right.
metaphorical. We are moving forward, and we are moving forward through things that we
Right.
think we can't do, but we can. So the
Right.
same with the fire, we're moving through something that holds a fear. The same with the glass, the same with the arrows. It's like, how do we move forward even when there is fear, and even when there is the perception of danger?
Yeah. All right. So there was a real sense for you that this was the right time for this, and that you said, I think at the beginning, that actually it was a coming together of ideas and thoughts, almost like
Yeah.
coalescing for you. So how do you feel about it now? Where are
So
you?
so what's lovely? So whenever I talk about the firewalks, the soles of my feet begin to tingle. It's like they are either remembering the experience or they're getting ready to do it again. And they're kind of going, oh, right, we know what to do here. Let's get going. So my whole, at the moment, my whole body is just in a kind of tingle fest as I talk about this stuff.
Right.
Um,
What a great word.
and how I feel about it now is, so one of my dreams is about community, is about how do I create communities that experience this, whether it's through fire or glass or arrows or boards, or just by coming together and creating spaces of belonging, creating spaces of nurturing to enable ourselves to take those steps, to take those leaps. Because one of the things that I really think is that we're all capable of amazing things, but we don't necessarily have the support structure around us that support us in doing that. We don't necessarily have our cheerleaders or the people that are going to catch us when it doesn't go quite to plan. So how do you create communities that do that? And whether they're small, whether they're the smallest community, that's one-to-one coaching, whether
Yeah.
they're slightly bigger communities, whether that's group coaching or group development, or
Yeah.
whether they're even larger communities. And so there's this thing for me of, so how do I put all of this stuff that I've learned over the last 50 odd years being in this space, but also the last 20 years of being into self-development and coaching, how do I begin to pull all of that together into a space where I go, okay, so this is what I understand from this. Do you want to come on that journey with me? Do you want to share in my understanding of what this means through teaching, supporting, supervising, mentoring, learning, reading? It's like, there's stuff in there that I don't remember that's in there, that in conversation, I go, oh yeah, because somebody talked about, and I go, no idea where that fact comes from or where that bit of knowledge is. But when you spend long enough in something, you start to soak it in. And it's like, now I've soaked it in. How do I allow it to leak out so others can be part of that?
Oh, amazing. And so you talked about a dream there, a dream of community in some way. And it's already my observation then from what you talked about, that's already happening. You're already working one-to-one, you're already working with groups of people, but it feels like there might be something else,
something bigger,
bubbling away.
Bubbling away, something bigger. And because one of the things I remember when I was when I left Animus, and I remember going, one of the things that I'm gonna really miss is my team. That group of people that you communicate with almost every day about the work. And I was like, there was something about that I just absolutely loved. And I remember being really sad about not having that. And I was going, I can do the freelance thing and I can go and I can work and all of that. I was like, I'm going to miss that. And what I noticed very quickly was that was recreated in different forms. So there was a group of coaches that we're part of that meet regularly, that have that, how do we work and support and nurture each other as a hub. And then there was Ivy House London, which is an organization that I work with, that have this beautiful, amazing freelance team where you feel like you're not a freelancer and a freelancer. So, it's one of those beautiful spaces where you feel like you are a collective, you're part of something, and you're the freelancer. So you come in and you do your thing, but you don't feel like you come in, you do, and you leave. You feel like you're part of something. And I was like, very quickly, I was part of a team. And I was like, I love this connectedness.
It's not an easy balance to get right, is it?
No, not at all. I think it's incredibly difficult. And I think it's always moving. So it's not something where you go, oh, we've got it right. Right, let's hold on to it. Because, new people come in, that changes it. People leave, that changes it. Circumstances or contracts change, that changes it. So you're constantly managing this kind of entity.
Yeah.
And it really made me think about, well, there are those of us that just don't have that. We don't have that freelance job that provides us with that sense of community. Or we're in a full-time job and we don't have that sense of community and nurturing around what we do. And so how do we do that? And we know when we coach people, especially when somebody hasn't had a coach before and they go, oh my gosh, this relationship's just amazing and different and so supportive. It's like, so how do we do that, not just for individuals and our clients, but for ourselves as well? How do we create this space? I guess it's a space for everybody. For me, it's like, for want of a better word, am I saying that? Do I mean that? I don't know what I mean, but it's like, how do we make a village where anybody can come and live in the village and leave the village when they want to? And when you're in the village, it's nurturing and supporting and ideas and plans. And you come in the village, you meet somebody and you go off and you do your thing over there. And then you come back and you share it to the village and all of that kind of stuff. And I guess, I've always, as I'm saying that, I go, I remember when I first started theatre, what's that, 35 years ago or something like that now.
You can't be that old, Rob, surely.
I remember at the Weekend Arts College, it was run by a lady called Celia Greenwood, and Mel, and there was Martha and Jennifer, and was it Graham, and all these wonderful teachers that we had at this space that we went to, and it was a community. And we were all from different walks of life, different cultures, different classes, and we'd come together on a Sunday and be part of this community that was about creating theatre, creating art, creating song. And we would do this, and then we would go away, and then we'd come back, and we'd bring our outside experiences to that world. We'd bring our learning from the outside world to this inside world. And to this day, there are people that I'm still connected with. I mean, my two best friends came from that space, and we went on to create our own theatre company. But there are people that were part of that I'm still connected to now, because there was just something so nurturing about this idea of here's a community that work together, that support each other to create something.
So it's partly something about recreating something that you loved in the past in this new way that you are now, and providing what you had for other people.
Yeah. And that because it's also, it's constantly nurturing. So by providing the space, it's not that I give to the space, it's like the space becomes self-giving and self-nurturing. So I get from the space and I give to the space, and so does everybody else.
Right.
And I think that part of it is where it's where something becomes more important than the individuals that are there. The work becomes the most important thing, or the achievement of a goal becomes the most important thing, or maybe not even the achievement, but the journey becomes the most important thing. So as the individual, it's like we're released from being, we're released from the pressure cooker of everything, because we're part of something else that's the most important thing.
Right.
And that gives us focus and drive and all of that.
Yeah, wonderful. I've just had I don't know why, I've just had a thought. I've had an image of you sat in the Animas office like 15 months ago or something. And I can't imagine that Rob knew where you are today would be. So I'm wondering, what is it that you don't know now that in 2 years you'll be doing?
Yeah, I mean that's the magic, right? And I think part of it for me is the if we don't say yes to opportunity, we don't know we will never find the answer to that. So I have plans, I have dreams. Some of them are rather big.
Some you can't mention here.
Yes. And it's like, I've got no idea whether they'll come true or not. I know that on a daily basis, I am working towards making them happen, and I'm bringing people in that help me to make it happen. I think, for me, one of the biggest learnings is you need expertise, you need help. I have a lady that works with me, Sandra Suamela, who is amazing. We often laugh about what is her title, because she isn't my PA, but she just gets stuff done. The stuff that I'm really rubbish at, she makes that happen, and we have an amazing working relationship. And then there's other people that I'm bringing in to support these ideas and these dreams to make happen, because you need. When I say need, I always feel a bit like, oh, do I need? But maybe you do. You need people that believe in you, that can get your dream, and that want to work with you to make it happen. Now, sometimes there's an exchange. Of course, there needs to be, but they also have to buy into it. They can't just go, oh, yeah, you want a website? I'll make you a website. They've got to go, I really get what you're trying to do here.
Is that what website designers sound like?
I think that's my voice for anybody who doesn't have belief in you. Oh, you
Right.
need a social media. Oh, you need an accountant. Oh, you need a. But that thing where somebody isn't in it with you, they're just
Yeah.
providing a service. It's like, no, I
Right.
want people that are in it. So I meet people
Yeah.
and I go, are you, if you're in it, then we can try something.
Yeah.
I have ideas with people. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to be the one or if that's going to be the one, but we're trying these things to see what happens. And we're saying yes to the opportunities and seeing how far you can run with those opportunities. How far can you take them?
Yeah. Wow. I think there's a long way to go yet, Rob, for you. I mean,
Mm.
whenever I'm with you, it's like there's this energetic resonance that seems to happen for me and probably between us. And I look at you and I think, oh, I'm always looking at you thinking, bloody hell. When you said earlier, it's like, oh, I could spend a day just in bed. It's like, yeah, I remember a day last week when I got up, had a bath, and I went back into the bedroom, and my dog, my greyhound, was lying on the bed, and I just climbed back into bed. Woke up 2 hours later. Fortunately, I hadn't got anything on, but I'm like, there's this energy, there's things ahead, and I'm
Mm.
always amazed at your capacity and your excitement and verve for life. And so I'm personally really excited to see
Mm.
what else might come down the line. And I'm just wondering, with the time we've got left, whether there's anything that remains to be said for you in this
I,
chat.
I don't know. I mean, when I think about my journey, one of the things that I say to people is that it's not that everything happens for a reason, but you can create a reason for everything. You can create
Mm,
something from things happening. So something might happen to you, and it's not great, it's not wonderful, doesn't serve you in that moment, but you have a choice to make at that point. And how do you help yourself to make the choice that supports you?
mm,
I was blessed, lucky, fortunate enough to have people around me that supported new choices and new ideas, and that also championed those ideas. Part of my work with Ivy House came around because of a guy called Darren who I'd worked with, who I hadn't worked with actually. I'd met once on a boat. I'd seen once when I was on a boat and he was on land, and we'd always gone, we should have coffee. We never had. And said to me, "Oh, if you're looking for new opportunities, there's this company that I do some work with. I can introduce you to them." And that's one of the beautiful things that I've had is that there's all of these introductions. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that when things happen, look around and ask for help, um, and be open to help being given to you.
mm.
Uh, and when you don't need help, help others, because you never know. And I don't mean do this to get this,
Mhm.
but there are people that I spent half an hour on a phone with, just to help them get an idea or a concept or think about what they want to do next. That 5 years later they're going, "Hey, I've got this thing here. Do you want to be part of it?" And so there's just something about
Yeah.
always being open to help and support without, because I do believe that when you do this stuff, it kind of goes out, it hits a shore somewhere, and then comes rippling back.
Right,
But you never
lovely.
know when that ripple's going to come,
No.
and
I
you
mean,
don't know
I
how
I
that.
I feel really strongly about that as well, Rob. It's like almost I think that the other side of that is that something even subconsciously within most of us knows when somebody is doing something because they're looking for something from you in return.
Mm,
And it's really easy to
mm,
have that energy and that mindset around you. It's like, so how do you have the energy where you're unattached to the outcomes of
yeah,
this? You're doing it for just a genuine reason. And I know that both of us try to live our lives in that way.
and I guess when you said to me, is there anything unsaid? I guess there are two things here that I want to say. So one is that, you know, there are days when I go, not getting out of bed today, not out of a kind of a depression, but more of a, I just need to watch Netflix and chill
Absolutely.
and just drink tea and just do
Oh,
nothing today.
I've
To
taught you
make
everything you know about that.
to making
I'm the
sure
master.
so making sure that you have the time to do nothing.
Mm,
So that's really important. Make sure you have the time to do nothing so you can recharge. So you've got that energy to do the things that you want to do. And there was something else I was going to say in that. Oh yeah, and then there's you know f- nourishing. That's the word. Nourishing yourself so you can do the stuff that you want to do.
mhm.
I have a love-hate relationship with fitness, but it's like sometimes you have to go and get fit so you've got the energy to do this work. And sometimes you need to eat well so you've got the energy to do this work. And whatever well means to you, but it's like you can't you can't work at this intensity. You can't drive your desires forward and into the world on an empty tank. So you're
No.
going to make sure your tank's got some fuel in it. And that fuel isn't just about what you eat and you drink, it's about the community that you associate with. That also gives you fuel and energy, your environment. How do you make sure that those things are fueling you? So it's not just about, running marathons, although that's part of it. It's about who are the people, because that's part of it too.
So much wisdom. So first of all, two things for me there. It's like, at least you've got a love-hate relationship with fitness. Mine's definitely hate. Um, hate squared. And the other thing is just like how present moment this interview's felt. It's like none of this has been scripted. We haven't
Mm,
really talked about it at all. And like all of that wisdom that's coming, it feels like it's just flowing through you
mm.
out to me. So that's amazing. So I'm noticing, we're moving towards the end of our conversation here today.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the things I know about you, Rob, is that you wear, I mean, many hats is one way of doing it. There's maybe a better way. There's many opportunities that people might be able to reach out to you, whether they're looking
Mm,
for a conversation, whether they're looking for that support, whether they're looking for that work, that
mm,
opportunity to work with you. So if there's somebody out there who's wondering what opportunity they might have to connect with you,
mm.
what would you say?
So, I mean, I would go, if you just want to have a chat with me, drop me a message wherever you're seeing this, or whether this is LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Just drop me a message if you just want to have a chat to see what might be possible. Because one of the things that I feel really passionate about is having conversations where you have no idea where they're going to go,
Mm,
because you just don't know what you're going to bring. We might have a chat for half an hour, and there's something I say that might make you go, "That's what I want to do." Or there's something you say, I go, "Oh, that's what I need to do." Or we might go, "How are we going to work together?" Or it might be, "How do I support you?" Or "How do you support me?" So if you feel drawn to that, then just drop me a line. Let's have a conversation. If you feel like, do you know what, I would be a great associate with you, then let's have a conversation around that too. If there's a partnership that you go, I could see us doing that. So, I'm working with Johan van Bavel from the Netherlands, and we're working on a partnership um, starting really soon. In the new year, we're going to be running coaching training, essentials coaching training here in the UK, and it's a 4-day coaching program. And that was born out of conversations about the work that we love to do and how might we find a way to work together. And we finally navigated our way to do that. So I guess I'm really open just to having conversations to see where they go,
mm,
because I don't know where they're going to go.
no,
And if you
no, brilliant.
feel drawn to have a conversation, if you feel drawn to sell me something, then that's not a great conversation for us to have, because like a lot of people on LinkedIn, I get lots of people saying, "Hey, I heard you talk about this, and I can sell you that." And it's like, well,
Yeah, yeah.
that's not my conversation. My conversation is, how might we support each other? How might we build something together? How might you go, do you know what, you're talking about community? I do this with the communities. How can you bring that in? Or you do fire walks, well, I do whatever walks. How might we bring these together to make something? Because I think for me, this is what it is about: relationship and partnership. How do we form relationships? How do we form partnerships? How
Mm.
do we come together so that we can become greater than what we are?
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Now, look, I know we could talk, well, literally for days. I mean, we spent 3 days in Berlin and didn't really stop talking, did we? So I know we could do that. But that feels like, on that amazing note, that might be a chance to draw this to a close. So I thank you for the opportunity to have a chat with you today. I've absolutely loved it. And I, as I say, I stand in awe at everything you're doing, and it makes me want to go and lie in a dark room for a few days and wonder what the hell I'm doing with my own life.
We know that's not true, but we'll let that sit there. We can go on for another hour on that, for sure.
At least. All right, Rob.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you so much for creating this space for us to have this conversation. Really
my pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure. I'll see you soon.
And so I'm just going to sign off by saying, this is Fan the Flames. If you've got an idea, a dream, a spark, let's have a conversation and see if we can turn that into a roaring fire. And on that note, I say goodbye. Have a great day, whatever you're doing, wherever you're doing it. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.